Hello and welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. I'm here with Naib, and just Naib, it's me and Naib. We're going to be talking about Mexico's friendly today, which is about to start in about an hour and a half against Senegal. Whether it's a partido molero, where it's a game to see youngsters, whether it's just a cash grab from the FMF, I for one am still excited. I still have my jersey on. I don't care. I think it's an excellent opportunity to check out some of these youngsters. Some of the which we'll probably talk about the Pachuca youngsters that are currently on the national team. So let's go over to Naib. Naib, how are you doing? Are you excited for this match? Do you think it's a partido molero, or could it also be a partido molero, which also gives an opportunity to show off some youngsters?
Yeah. First of all, buenas tardes, Cesar. I hope you're
Mm-hmm.
doing well over there in San Diego, Tijuana area, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Over here in Mexico City, yeah, the interest is not that big, to tell you the truth. I mean,
Yeah.
but then again, I remember the U.S. Mexico game in San Antonio back in April 2015, if I recall correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a big impression in that game that it's not partido molero. I think it's a national pastime to go see El
Mm-hmm.
Tri in the U.S. And El Tri really doesn't go to Miami, Florida. So this is a good opportunity for the people that live in that area to go see the team. Of course, I do believe that I think there has to be some type of scheduling change. I think
Yeah.
if Juan Carlos Osorio is having trouble to make a list for this game, because of what Chivas decided to do with a couple of its players, I think that puts a little bit of a problematic in this whole idea of making these games when it's not a FIFA date. And I think it puts a little bit the FMF in a situation where I think they have to revisit how they do this planning, because I do think that when Chivas, or I don't know, Pachuca, or
Mm-hmm.
whoever the club is right now, is Chivas because it's only one. When they say, it's not a FIFA date, and what if my player gets hurt, a starter? I think they do have a point there.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before we started the show, you see someone like Candido Ramirez, he's given this opportunity, but he has yet to play a single minute. In the Liga MX regular season, his only appearances have so far been in the Copa MX and with I believe, with the under 20 squad. So it's weird when you see Osorio have to stretch and have to pick someone like that who's literally had not a single minute of playing time in the regular season. Really quickly, I mean, just speaking of the roster and whatnot. Let's right now what just popped up, but we were talking about this beforehand as well. We're seeing one of the leaked starting lineups. It could be a complete lie, it could be way off, but from what we are seeing right now, it looks like there could be potential 4-3-3 that Mexico is going to play with tonight. And I don't know if you have the list in front of you, Naib. If not, that I could read out the starting 11. Which one of the leaked, or it's not in confirmation, but
Yeah.
one of the leaked starting 11.
Yeah,
Do
I
you have
mean,
it?
you see
Yeah.
there you see Corona, right? Is it Corona, the
Mhm.
goalkeeper,
Mhm.
Cesar?
Yeah.
And then you see Jimenez. Is it Jimenez on the right?
Yeah, actually, well, let me see. Let's see. It looks like it's Corona. Then we'd have Jerry Flores. We'd have Yasser and Araujo as the two center backs. We'd have Torres Nilo as the left back, and then we would have looks like Zavala as a defensive mid, Dueñas and Montes as the two attacking mids, Dam and Lozano as the wingers, and then Lalo Herrera up top. As we mentioned, this isn't confirmed. This is just one. You always see this too. The league starting lineups. And especially right now with Juan Carlos Osorio, who knows? I've seen multiple league starting lineups for the past couple of games that have been way off. But this is one of the ones that's potentially out there. And if this is a starting lineup, is this what you would want to see, Naive? These 11.
When you see this lineup and you go into detail, I mean, I think there's some names that stand out. I mean, I think Torres Nilo, for example, is a left back
Mm-hmm.
that could be considered for the March qualifiers. Another name that stands out is Chapito Montes, who I think has had a decent start for Club Leon over there in the last couple of weeks. And then, of course, you have Dam and Lozano there as your wingers. He Osorio really likes to play those wingers
Mm-hmm.
quite a lot in his lineups, and I think it will be interesting to see how they sort of move. Herrera, I personally like Martin more than Herrera as a forward. The characteristics, in my opinion, seem more attractive. Herrera's not going through a hot goal scoring streak in the last weeks or so.
Mm-hmm.
Missed a penalty a couple of weeks ago, and in the game against Pachuca, he also missed a sitter
Mm-hmm.
as well. So he's not going through the best of times. but like I was saying, I think even though this game does have a lot of players, like you said, like Candido Ramirez, that probably we won't see Candido in the Mexico Call Up for years to come unless he breaks out some way or another. This Mexico team still has some players that
Yeah.
could be considered for the March qualifiers, like Torres Nilo and Chapito Montes.
Yeah. I mean, but then again, I mean, just from my perspective, my first reaction, I look at this defense, and I'm not. There's nothing to really for me to be excited about with this defense. And I guess overall, in the whole roster that Mexico brought up for this game, the more exciting potential, the more exciting options are in the midfield and the attack. But there's just that's just I don't know. Maybe just saying Araujo, maybe just saying Jerry Flores back in the starting 11 makes me feel uneasy. I think if there's something for me to highlight, it's going to be Damon Lozano, Jurgen Damm and Irving Lozano. I think that could be really exciting to watch, and it'll be interesting to see how they can play with Lalo Herrera. Maybe he's the exact kind of player that they could provide some service for.
Yeah, I mean,
Really,
and look with the defense, Cesar. Let's not forget. Well, I mean, in the Chepo era, which is not exciting
Chepo.
at all whatsoever.
That's starting to become ancient now. The Chepo
Yeah,
era.
yeah. You know, Jerry Flores got a lot of playing time in the
Yeah.
Confederations Cup over there in Brazil. And you know he's a decent right back, but you know I don't know if he has a potential right now
Yeah.
to be a national team caliber right back. You
Yeah.
know, because if you see the list, you see Paul Aguilar, even Layun now because
Yeah.
Osorio wants him to play as right back, and even Raúl Deditos Lopez. I think if Raúl Deditos Lopez had come to this to, to this game, he would
Yeah.
be a starter at the moment. And with Nestor Araujo, it's interesting. You know, it's interesting for him to start this game because let's keep in
Mhm.
mind that before the America game, Santos was coming off a 3-game winning streak. I
Mhm.
think they've been playing decent football, really fast and quick, and he deserves a look. You know,
Yeah.
Nestor Araujo was part of that generation that won the gold medal in the
Mhm.
London Olympics.
And look at once again at this potential starting lineup. As we mentioned, this isn't confirmed. This is one of the rumored starting lineups out there right now. Which players do you think? I mean, other than perhaps Lozano or even Jurgen Damm, because I feel like that could be a little bit of an easier answer because they're young, they have potential, they could potentially break out. But other than those two, which player could have a breakout performance? Which of these 11 do you think we might be talking about tomorrow? Do you think we'll be saying like, well, now they might be able to go up a little bit higher in the Mexico depth chart? For me, I mean, it's maybe I don't know. I don't, what comes to mind for you?
You know, because it's interesting. In my opinion, Zavala, I would have preferred Jesus Molina from Santos. I think
Yeah.
Molina has had a more consistent last year or so than
Hmm.
Zavala, for example.
Hmm.
So I look forward to Zavala. Dueñas, I have nothing against Dueñas. I think Dueñas has been one of the greatest discoveries by Tuca Ferretti and Tigres. You know,
Hmm.
that's how we can put it. And there are
Hmm.
very few instances that a youngster from Tigres is brought up into the first team and it's a consistent starter. And that's what Dueñas is in
Yeah.
Tigres. And he scored a phenomenal goal against Puebla. No, not against Puebla. It was in Puebla against Chiapas. That
Uh-huh.
I think he's coming in a good streak. He was also
Yeah.
in the Gold Cup final lineup against Jamaica, so that gives him a
Yeah.
little bit more, a respect in that area.
Hmm.
But I want to see Gutierrez and Pizarro, to tell you the
Yeah.
truth.
I think
I
we.
want to.
I think a lot of us. I mean, that was one of the storylines was the Pachuca youngsters. So I think a lot of us wanted to see Guti. I think we want to see Pizarro. And I mean, you could easily see them go into that midfield and work with Lozano right there alongside them. Me, look, just kind of a random thought. I think if this lineup is true, I think Montes is going to be the captain. I don't know. I don't know what you think. To me, he stands out as one of the best options. Maybe Torres Nilo because of his past experience, and he's had a lot of caps for the national team. But I think
Well,
those
see,
two, maybe
I don't
Triple.
know. Yeah, I don't. I don't remember quite well Osorio's press conference from yesterday, but I
Mm-hmm.
think he did say that one of his center backs, was going to be the captain in the first half, and the other one in the second half.
This could be Yasser
So it
Corona.
could be Yasser Corona in the first half, and in the
Yeah.
second half, Palmera Rivas. Palmera Rivas,
Yes.
who we
Yeah.
sort of joke a lot about, it's because Palmera Rivas, but Palmera Rivas has been one of the consistent center backs in Liga MX, I think,
Yeah.
in the last seasons. I mean, and he was an integral part of that Tigres
Yeah.
championship team last season.
No, he's excellent. I mean, he hasn't had that many minutes as he had in the last season, but I think I think he's an excellent player. I don't know. I wouldn't say he's number one national team starting material, but I think he is. He provides a little bit of depth to the team. So, say as I mentioned, if this roster is true, which players do you want to see in the second half? Because for me, I mean, we can talk about Eric Gutierrez. Would be nice to see Rodolfo Pizarro. Maybe Salcedo. Maybe
Yeah,
Picolini. Actually, you
Salcedo.
know what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Salcedo. Maybe let's see after all the big deal that was about bringing Piccoli, I'm sure Osorio doesn't care whether he plays or not. But at this point, I want to see him play, whether he does well or not. I just after all the big deal that it was made over him making it back onto the national, making it back, but actually making into the national team.
Yeah, I mean, it's an opportunity that comes his way. I think the 2015 Apertura was a good season for him overall. You know, he's that type of. I mean, I remember the America Pumas that took place in the semis
Mm-hmm.
last season, and he had a lot of big saves in that series.
He had a
And
lot of
had it not
flopping
been,
too.
yeah, a lot of flopping too. But Cesar, I think in that particular game, where America just totally blew out Pumas at CEU, and I was so close of reaching the final. You know, Palacios had a couple of great saves, and then in this weekend against Pachuca, he also got a couple of good saves. So I mean, he's a keeper that is getting. You know, I remember there was some stat coming out last season that he was the goalkeeper that received that had to face more shots and had more blocks out
Really?
of those shots.
No,
So I
that.
mean, I think the numbers are the one of the reasons why
Mhm.
he's in Miami.
No, and I mean, jokes aside, it's easy to make fun of him, and I love to make jokes on Twitter. I probably make too many jokes on Twitter, and it's just I love to make fun of the guy, but I do think that he deserves that opportunity. I'm not saying, like I said, he's not my first choice, not my second choice, probably not even my third or fourth choice keeper. But I think the season that he had with Pumas in the Apertura in 2015, and the way I mean, he's been a little bit shaky this season, but I think he deserves an opportunity to show what he could do for the national team. But as I mentioned in the last podcast, I feel a little bad for him because when he comes in on the second half, and it seems likely that he'll probably be a second half substitute, it's going to be he has to be perfect. If he makes one mistake, everybody's going to give him a hard time. And if he really wants himself to be pushed up at that depth chart for the national team, he has to be absolutely perfect. He can't make a single mistake at all whatsoever in that second half that he'll probably play. I
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
know.
I
Yeah.
think Picolin has to see it. Yeah, Picolin has to see it a certain way. I think Corona. You know, even though he's had a terrible, because I wrote a goalkeeping piece last week, and it was sort of trying to analyze the current scenario of Mexican goalkeepers in Liga MX and all over the world. And Ochoa Corona sort of battle has been going on since 2006,
Mm-hmm.
and now all of a sudden Talavera is the undisputed sort of starter because of what Juan Carlos Osorio has declared.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I personally see these instances. I mean, the Picolín instance reminds me a lot of the Melitón Hernandez instance,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
was like sort of what's going on here? What is Piojo doing? You know, it really didn't help in this generational shift that I think
Mm-hmm.
Mexico should already start thinking about, because when you see Talavera, you see Moises, you see Ochoa, you see Corona, the youngest one is
Yeah.
Ochoa, 30 years old, and he's not even playing in Malaga. And who knows when he's going to start playing
Yeah.
constantly. You know, so I think this is a product of what's going on in Mexico. There's really few Mexican goalkeepers that get minutes, and they are all
Mm.
beyond 25 years old. You know, I
Yeah.
think that has to change.
So if he's Edgar Melitón Hernandez, are you implying that in the next season he's going to have to switch back and forth with a backup goalkeeper for Pumas, and that's just what's going to happen? And then people are going to question him. He's going to butter fingers. He's going to let the ball go through in every match. I'm just making jokes, but
No, hopefully not that way. Yeah, hopefully
yeah.
not that way. But we'll see what happens in the next months.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look back at this roster really quickly. Who do you in the midfield, who do you think could stand out? We talked about the defense a little bit. We talked about Alco. We talked about Jerry Flores. Let's talk about the midfield a bit. Ken Zavala, if he gets that start, could he be that player who was a regular back in 2013? If we're talking about the Chepo era, I think he did a decent job. I remember he even scored a couple goals as well. during that time. Then he became a little unreliable. He didn't get any call up for a while, but now he's doing a decent job in the league, and I think he is justified to be having to be playing in that defensive midfield role. Do you think that he could potentially stand out? Do you think maybe this will be the return of Zavala?
Well, I don't know. I don't know, Cesar, to tell you the truth, because I think in the midfield, it's quite interesting the number of options there are.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do think that, for example, a player like Gallito Vasquez still has some type of privilege
Mm-hmm.
there in that position, over the rest. Jonathan Dos Santos is also there, And the thing with Zavala, I was a little bit unimpressed with his game against Pachuca. That
Mm-hmm.
game that Pachuca just ran over them
Oh,
basically
yeah.
in Estadio Hidalgo. And his decision making was quite poor. I think
Mm-hmm.
that penalty he did on Franco Jara showed a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of, I don't know, I don't think he has it in
Mm-hmm.
him to lead El Tri from that position.
Mm-hmm.
The player that leads El Tri from that position that Zavala is going to play today, it has to be someone special.
Yeah.
And Zavala is nowhere near de
Mm-hmm.
Gallito Vázquez, de Jonathan Dos Santos, even de Andrés Guardado, who can play
Yeah.
there, and Héctor Herrera. That's why I'm telling you, my opinion could be leaning more towards Jesus Molina because I think he was
Mm-hmm.
an integral part of what Santos did in the 2015 Clausura when they won the title with Caixinha.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I'm not. I mean, I'm saying he could come back, but I'm not going to imply that he's anywhere near Gallito, who I believe should be in Europe right now. And I don't think he's nowhere near Jonathan Dos Santos right now either. Or maybe Jesus Molina, maybe a little bit closer to that. But yeah, I think it's interesting. And Tom wrote about this to see a player like him who has returned to the national team, who probably has to, probably like Bicolin has to have a near perfect game because there's a lot of competition in his position. So I think that
Yeah,
that's difficult for him. Yeah.
yeah, and I think Cesar, one of the things, and this is, I don't know how to interpret this, but the team is not a really. I don't think this Senegal team is going to be a true test.
Yeah.
To yeah, I think a Panama or a Costa Rica in
Yeah.
Costa Rica or in Panama City would have been a way better challenge for this Mexico national team.
Yeah.
This is a young Senegal team, and who knows how how they're gonna play if they're gonna hit a lot how physical they might be. They're
Yeah.
gonna be creative footballers. I hope they're creative
Yeah.
footballers because they have potential there. But it's on paper, this Senegal team is not one that you're gonna say, well, maybe it will get tested out. These players will get tested out. I think mainly is how they understand Osorio's message.
Yeah.
Because if this game ends 0-0, which could happen, it will tell you a little bit that these players were a little bit confused with Osorio's message. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that this game should end 5-0 or 6-0. No, 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 no. Don't
Yeah.
interpret it that way. But I do want to see that the team understands what Osorio wants out of this 4-3-3 that it
Yeah.
looks like he's going to use from the get go.
Yeah. I mean, really quickly on Senegal, you said who knows what we're gonna see from Senegal, and I think that's entirely true because like from the conversation with all of us, we love to talk about Mexico, Pigolin, blah blah, but I have seen little to nothing like anywhere people even naming individual players who are a part of this Senegal team. Even less about the manager. I think honest, I think most of us who are covering this game, most of us who are writing about it, we really don't know what to expect from this Senegal team. The only thing we do know is that they're bringing in young players. But other than that, it seems like there are a lot of unknowns about this team that Mexico is going to be taking on today.
Yeah,
And
and it's an interesting. I mean, it's what it's it's what these games are all about. I think Osorio mentioned something about Colombia being a possible opponent for this game,
yeah,
and how it didn't go through because Colombia didn't agree on coming.
yeah.
Um, you know, it's hard, but the schedule is there, the contract is there, and El Tri has to play
they
these
have,
games no
they
matter
have to
what.
fulfill it. Like
Yeah.
we have to fill this baseball stadium. And it looks like, I mean, right now I saw some stuff, and it was much earlier today that about only 12,000 tickets have been sold for the game. But then again, I mean, a lot of people will show up the day of at the match too, and will buy those tickets. I don't know if we're expecting a sellout. I tried to talk to someone from some who told me that this was last week, they told me tickets were selling well. Then I asked if it was going to be a sellout, and then there was no response at all whatsoever from that
No,
representative.
no, no. And I think, some is really open about it. When there's a sellout, we know 24 hours before the game. And
Yeah,
now we don't have any sign that it will be a sellout. So Um, what I believe is hopefully no players get hurt.
Yeah,
And there can be some players that stand out. I think
yeah,
it's an opportunity that they can waste.
yeah,
And I think that's how one can see this game.
yeah.
It's all about.
Okay, so before going to our predictions, anybody else that you think will stand out? Anybody else that you think will that we'll be talking about after the game or talking about tomorrow? For me, I think I'm hoping to see. I mean, we're talking about Henry Martin. I've gotten the chance to watch him live, down in Tijuana, and he's a hardworking player, and he's stronger than I expected him to be. One thing that I've liked
Yeah.
about watching him is that when he has the ball, it's hard to bring him down, and yet he's still one of the more fouled players in the league, and it's been a joy to watch him work with Daido Moreno. If he does get the minutes today, who knows how he'll do without Moreno, his partner in crime, and if he were to have someone like Lozano and Dam on the sides. But I think that's someone that I would like to see. And also, of course, I mean, we've talked about this already like 15 times, like today, but just
Yeah.
Pachuca youngsters. And I think that's if it weren't for them, I think this game would be a lot less exciting for me, to be honest. But
To tell the truth, when I was thinking about this game last night and
mm,
last couple of hours today, I was thinking it's not that much about the players, of which player stands out. I think today Osorio wants to see who could be the right center back again to
mm,
use, against is it Canada and El Salvador next
mm,
month, or is it
yeah,
Canada
I
and
think it's
Honduras?
Canada and Canada actually. We played them twice, I
Oh,
think.
okay.
Yeah, but sorry,
Okay,
continue.
so basically, I think Hector Moreno is a sure center back on the left. If nothing
Mm-hmm.
happens, he'll definitely start. But the
Yeah.
question is on the right center back because Ayala's coming out of a job break, and he's still recuperating.
Mhm.
Rafa Marquez has had multiple muscular injuries in the last months, and what's the other one that comes to mind? Well, those are the two that have had.
Mhm.
Diego Reyes is not playing that much in Real Sociedad.
Yeah. Hey,
So
he scored. But the thing is, he scored as a defensive midfielder. So.
as a defensive midfielder. We'll see if Osorio will consider that to be good enough so he could be the starter with Moreno. But
Mhm.
then you have these three center backs. I think Almera Rivas, Salcedo, and Nestor Araujo. They
Mhm.
will all get minutes tonight. I'm pretty sure they will because Osorio wants to see if these center backs are capable to play alongside Hector Moreno. And I think
Mhm.
that could be perhaps the main topic
Yeah.
or headline that we can take out of this game
I
if
mean,
they do well.
I might be wrong, but I think from all those options, I think Salcedo is the only one who's right-footed. I know that it doesn't really matter. You could still play as a right center back or be left-footed, but I could be wrong. But I thought Salcedo was the only one from that group who's right-footed from those all the options as center backs. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's just something to bring up. I don't know. I guess maybe
because
it's
that
not.
could play
Yeah.
to his advantage. I think that could play to his advantage
Yeah.
because, as we already know, Osorio is really picky about being natural right-footed as
Yeah.
a right back and natural left-footed if you're a left back. But
Yeah.
we'll definitely have to keep an eye on that and see what conclusions he makes.
Yeah, no, likewise. So hopefully we get to see some minutes from Salcedo today. Maybe hopefully he plays at least 10 times better than he did in the last game for Chivas. But then again, I made that joke that maybe he got that second yellow on purpose in order to let Chivas let him play
Yeah.
today. All right, so we got about 5 minutes left. I know we were just talking about how we don't know what to expect from Senegal. That it's a bunch of young players. I mean, obviously, like a lot of us don't know much about. It's not. I guarantee 99.9% of the Mexican media and American media who's covering Mexico has yet to watch a Senegal like club match ever.
Use 21 match,
Yeah,
so,
yeah. But recognizing that, let's just do some predictions. Doesn't even, it could be a scoreline, it could be a prediction. Someone who's going to stand out, someone who's going to fail. Actually, let's do that first. Let's tell me someone who's going to stand out today and someone who's going to underwhelm. And then we'll go to the predicted score afterwards. So someone's going to stand out and someone who's just going to flop.
oh man, I feel bad for the one that's gonna flop.
Ah.
I sort of want to see all of them succeed. All of them.
Hey, if you don't think any of them are going to, but no, someone's going to flop. But if you don't think any of them, if none of them are going to flop,
Maybe I'll put a flop. Okay, I'll put a flop. I'll say Jerry Flores is gonna flop.
Jay Flores. Okay.
And I think the player that's gonna stand out in general is gonna be Lozano.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think he's gonna take over basically this moment. And then in the second half, hopefully we get to see Gutierrez and Pizarro,
Hmm.
because I think it will be nice to see all of the Pachuca players getting minutes. Let's keep
Hmm.
in mind, there's six substitutions, I think, in this game,
Yeah. He said. Yeah. He said
and
six substitution there.
one already is reserved for the goalkeeper. So that
Hmm.
basically leaves five substitutions left,
Yeah.
and he will select accordingly
Hmm.
what he sees appropriate.
Yeah. Let's see. For me, let's see who's gonna flop. I mean, just looking at this roster, I think Lalo Herrera. I could be entirely wrong, but I think Lalo Herrera might struggle. He's not in the best of form right now with Pumas, as we mentioned. I think he only has one goal so far this season. I don't think he's at, like, as we mentioned, the last level that he was in the last season.
Yeah.
So I think that there are question marks over his head right now. Even though last season he also said that he's the caliber player where he wants to play in Europe, but I don't think that's true at all, Lalo. I'm sorry.
No.
And then someone who's going to stand out. I'm going to stick with, and Lozano's a good one. Uh, I'm gonna go with Duenas actually. If Duenas does get some minutes, he's had plenty of experience with the national team so far in the recent years. He's been doing well with Tigres, and no, I think he's a consistent player. So I think it would be I expect him to do well today.
So yeah. Basically, to the audience, I mean, we've been talking about a possible lineup. That lineup will be the lineup. So I think we sort of nailed it there.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. So I mean, I think there in those terms, uh, how can you observe? One of the things, I mean, we haven't even touched upon, it was that the possibility of seeing Giovanni Dos Santos in this call-up, and
Yeah.
why he's not present, who knows why, but it was a great opportunity because the Galaxy's barely starting their preseason games. I think they
Hmm.
played yesterday against Cholos, and
Yeah.
Giovanni was in the starting 11, so he's not hurt or whatsoever.
Hmm.
And that's going to be something to see in the upcoming months. If
Hmm.
how But what I want to say is that this was a good opportunity for Giovanni to play for El Tri,
Yeah.
because
No.
there was nothing else.
Yeah, and especially with just it's not like it would have been like he was in Europe or anything. He's here in the U.S. I mean, the worst he would have missed a friendly against Cholos, and it's a little weird that he wasn't called up. And I think I mean I know he works better as a little bit as a second striker, but he could have worked in one of those winger positions. He could have easily been in Dam's position instead, right there on the right wing. But we'll see. Maybe he'll get a call up now, as I say next month, but I highly doubt we'll be seeing him next month, which is unfortunate because I feel like he should still be in the conversation for the national team. I don't know if he's a starter, but he should at least be a backup option.
No. I think considering what has happened in the last, I mean, considering what happened with Chivas, because let's keep in mind, Chivas didn't let
Yeah,
go of
yeah,
Raúl Deditos López,
yeah,
Orbelín Pineda, Gulit Peña, which who knows, maybe all of those three would have been starters.
yeah.
But there was opportunity, I think, in this call up. If you really wanted to meet the coach,
Hmm.
Osorio, you had him basically for 3 days. You
Yeah.
could have talked to him about the situation, but it's looking really dark. I think,
Yeah.
I think there's something else here that we don't know about.
Ooh, it's
It
looking
could be so
really dark from Naive Oran.
because
You heard it here.
because I think this was a great opportunity for him to show up. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a 2 hour flight or 3 hour flight from LA
yeah.
to Miami, maybe 4 hour flight to be
I'll say,
exact.
yeah, I think it's probably,
Yeah,
but still, he's in the country. He's in the country.
he's in the country, and I think it would have been a great opportunity to mix with these players. He probably had the potential to be the captain of the team because of what he represents for the national team. But there's something there that only Osorio and Giovanni know about.
All right, we'll find it. I mean, he's close to a lot of those big names now. What are you gonna say? They're all gonna ditch the senior national team. Maybe a lot of them will try to push for playing the Olympics. Mexico is gonna be fielding a semi-strong team during the summer during the Copa America. We go out during the group stage. We fall out during the group stage of the Olympics. I'm just messing with you, but
Oh man, it's
but
you never know what's gonna happen with El Tri. Yeah, I
you
mean, it's
know
so unpredictable.
we just gotta offer Gio. Maybe if Osorio like offers him like maybe like a minion toy of some sort, or maybe just like So just something minion related, just to try to bring Gio.
And I don't want to be, I don't want to seem like I'm contradicting myself, because I
Yeah.
am the one that declared that if Giovanni doesn't have a Jovinko style season in MLS, then
Hmm.
he's not a national team caliber player.
Hmm.
But looking at it from this perspective about this game against Senegal, it's in the States. You got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I think it was appropriate for him just so he could get back into the conversation, because I
Yeah.
think he's
Yeah.
really getting out of it. I mean, I just don't see Giovanni being uh, practically. I don't even see him being important coming off the bench, because I
Yeah.
think there's other players that are ahead of him, and Osorio has declared that there are other players that are ahead of him and that he's still not fully 100%. But this game against Senegal, as we've been talking in the last 30 minutes,
Hmm.
it's really strange. It's a strange type of game because it's a U21 Senegal team. And the trip wasn't that far for
Yeah.
Giovanni. Giovanni could have gone to Miami.
And can you imagine how Kubo Torres feels if Gio, who's had an excellent MLS season, then Kubo get like he's still, he didn't really find his form last season. Like, what does that say for Kubo, who has been someone in the conversation, but is also a striker in the U.S. who's Mexican, who we'll see how he does this season. I feel even more bad for Kubo, who maybe will be that's even less of an opportunity for him to potentially come back for the
The
national team.
thing with Cuba that's interesting, I think he understands the challenge in Houston. There's new owners in the Houston
Yeah.
Dynamo. I had a chance to chat with him a couple of minutes with him last week.
Hmm.
Hopefully, the article will be out soon. But
Hmm.
it was a different Cuba. I think he knows what it means to be with the Dynamo. He knows that his coach is Owen Coyle,
Hmm.
who has been coaching in the Premier League for quite
Hmm.
some years, and knows, he has contacts over there. So
Yeah.
if Cubo Torres breaks out this year, I'm pretty darn sure that Owen Cole is gonna call people over there in England and say, "Hey, I got a great forward here that plays for the national team, scoring a
Hmm.
lots of goals. Give him a look." And I
Yeah.
think Cubo does understand that, and I think hopefully this is the year.
We'll see. Maybe Cole will go abroad. We'll have to keep an eye on him, how he does with the Dynamo in Houston. So we've gone past the 30-minute mark. I gotta start getting ready for the game because I'm doing the player ratings. That way, all of you guys can provide all your criticisms and jokes when you say, "I can't believe that you gave Picolin a 9. He deserves a 10. He was perfect." So really quickly, predicted score for tonight's match.
2-0, 2-0. Chucky Lozano with a brace.
Ooh, 2-0. I'm going for a 2-1. I think I don't know if it's with Chui, I don't know if it's with Picolin, but one of those guys are gonna make a mistake. Maybe just a simple one, and allow one. And for who's gonna score for Mexico? I like one for Lozano, and I like one for let's go for one for why not Henry Martin, second
Yeah,
half.
it would be his first goal with the senior national team.
Yeah.
As would be the case for Chucky as well.
Yeah, for true. And it could be for Lozano as yeah, for Lozano it could be the same for let's see who are the other two debuts we talked about Eric Gutierrez and I don't think Picolin's going to score.
No, no. That'd be quite interesting.
All right, so thank you everyone who watched the show. Thank you everyone who has taken part in the chat. Usually we have someone like going along right there and like chatting with you guys, but it's a little difficult today because it's just me and Naive. Thank you, Naive. Hopefully we have a good match for Mexico today. I know, as we mentioned, it's a partido molero, or people call it partido molero. I'm still excited. I still have my jersey. I'm
Yeah.
stoked to see what Mexico could do in
And
their first game.
a brief mention in this brief expresso we had with Cesar is the Raul Gudiño move
Oh, sorry, I forgot about
to
that.
Union Madeira. If I'm
Madeira,
that,
Unión de Madeira, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it will be interesting to see if he gets first team minutes. I think it's a really important move
Yeah.
because I think the club looks something, already sees something in Gudiño and wants to see him play, in the first division in Portugal, and I think that's great for the progression.
Oh yeah, it's excellent. The starting goalkeeper from the club got injured, can't play for the rest of the season. So now Gudinho has this golden opportunity to be getting first league minutes in the first division. So that's something to be excited for. Something to
That's
watch out
huge.
for. Yeah, it's massive. He's only 19,
Mhm.
so be sure to get all your apps that follow all those other Europeo clubs. You got to favorite Union de Madeira, I believe Madeira. All
Yeah,
right. Thank you, Dave. Thank you to everyone, and let's hope for the best. Let's see what Mexico can do today. All right. Thanks.
thanks.